It's Sunday night. I'm Paul John Dykes, and it's match day, Rangers v Celtic. I'm joined by NatASHA Meikle, Lawrence Conley, Laura Bradburn, and Russell the Blazer Boyce for the big one. The big one. Now, before we get looking at this team and reviewing the match ahead, Russell, when Boyce met Alonso was the chat during the week. You spoke to the main man. You spoke to him. Talk to us through your press conference.
I felt, he's thoroughly impressive character. I mean, I think I've alluded to on the show before that I'd really took to his sort of touchline sort of demeanour and how he conducted himself there, and how I felt that he was very much on side for everyone. But actually, having listened to him in the press conference, you realise this is, firstly, a big deal to this man. He's taking it extremely seriously. He's extremely professional. And I just feel that Fran Alonso gets it, for want of a better terminology. I think whoever's the next Celtic men's manager, not that we're here to talk about them today or anything, but I just think they could be doing with chatting to Fran Alonso and how he's settled in. Because remember, this guy's not obviously of Scottish background. He's not originally from the Celtic family, if you like, or anything like that. And yet, I'm looking at a fully paid up member of the Celtic family now. He was really impressive as a character. I think he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the tactical knowledge, how he wants his team to set up. But the overriding feeling for me was just that is what has been sorely lacking from the men's side of things this season. And that hunger, passion, drive, and genuine love for all things Celtic. Need to bring more folk like that back to the club.
And also, Russell, he commented on the blazer.
He did. It was his first comment. He says, "Nice jacket, nice jacket." So, that was a big moment for me, mate. Big moment.
Absolutely. Russell came on having not really seen much, Laura, of the women's game, the women's team. He's kind of fallen in love with Fran Alonso, and hopefully we can cover far more games into the next season. I was making the point that we're probably going to be looking at 90 Celtic games next season with the men's team, the women's team and the Colts. Mm-hmm. I mean, is this something that you think there's going to be quite a lot of Celtic fans will embrace, all three teams?
Well, I think if we know anything about Celtic supporters, it's that very often they're interested in all things Celtic, even if they're not interested in any other kind of football. So there will be no complaints from next season with regards having Celtic-related things to watch. I would hope that, for the people who are unfortunate enough not to be able to follow the men's team for either financial or other reasons, that the Colts and the women's team provide other opportunities, especially since they very often are playing in a lot more easily accessible and local areas for people to attend. So, obviously the club are going all guns blazing with all this next season, and all the better for it. Hopefully it'll help strengthen every aspect of the club.
Lawrence, I mentioned last week that there had been a fans forum. They were asking for ideas from fans in relation to the added value, and I did suggest this membership. You know how we were speaking about how David Slight of a Celtic State of Mind is a member of St Pauli and other clubs, where you pay the annual membership and you get loads of different types of content and discounts, etc. And I suggested that the membership should include entry into the women's games and into the Colts games. Do you think that that's something the club have confirmed, by the way, that they are going to take that on board, the membership scheme? Do you think that's something that could give you the added value that we've been talking about?
Definitely. Fergus started it, didn't he? That the Hampden season, you get free into the reserve games, free travel to the games, discounts at the shop, discounts at the restaurant, and it's kind of been lost since then, since Fergus has left. So I think it's something that's been pretty basic, especially when you've got let's say the stadiums aren't full. Why aren't we encouraging people to go along and making money at the shop when they attend, or making money off the catering or whatever? It should be, definitely. I think it's definitely the way forward, and I think that, it was sad it was lost after Fergus had started it.
Oh, definitely. NatASHA, I've been seeing a lot of comments on the Twitter handle, the Twitter page, people saying that because we've been talking about the women's game, they've been tuning in, they've been showing an interest. It's something that maybe next season they will be interested in going along and watching the women's team. Tonight's a massive night, isn't it, in terms of Champions League qualification?
It's huge. So for those who haven't been following the league closely, or perhaps just picking up at this stage or recent stages, what we're seeing is Celtic and Rangers really battling it out for second spot now. After today, there's only 3 games left of the season. There's 2 points between Celtic and Rangers at the moment, with Celtic in third and Rangers in second. So this game is going to be vital if we want to get that second spot. Second spot's crucial because it's the Champions League spot, and that'd be amazing visibility and amazing experience for the girls if they're able to get that second Champions League spot. But winning today is going to be so important in that. We've talked about the league setup before. Really, we have these top 3 teams. Glasgow City, who are on course for 14 in a row, are well out there as, the team to beat. Recently, Celtic and Rangers have started putting more funds, more resources towards their women's team, and we're seeing the emergence of them becoming more and more successful. And really now they're in that second and third spot. But these 3 teams have broken away from the others. Hibs from time to time really do cling on and give them a game, but these teams are really battling amongst themselves for that 1, 2, 3 spot. So when they play each other, these head-to-heads are so vital. Now Celtic have managed to sneak the win, and I will say sneak the win against Rangers the last twice they played them, because they have won both times and both have been against the run of play. There's no harm in saying that. Can they do it again today? I absolutely don't see why not. The only other thing worth noting in terms of the league positions and the run-in we've got is that on the last day of the season, Rangers play Glasgow City. So there is still a chance. There is still a chance of something being done there, even if we don't manage to get the result today. But if we want to go on and get that second spot, we have to win today, really.
Absolutely. We've seen the game. We covered the game last time round. We were still getting familiar, I think, with the personnel within the Celtic side. Everybody will remember that game for the winning goal by Mariah Lee, who is in the side tonight. NatASHA, what's your thoughts on the lineup that's came out in the last 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, so we can run through the lineup for anyone who's not seen it yet. We've got Logan in goals. We've got Bartle, Jacinta, Lee, Robertson, Ewens, Donaldson, Clark, Hayes, Philby and Warrington. And for those who've been paying attention over the last few weeks, you will notice that one of the key people missing there is Sarah Teagarden. Sarah Teagarden plays in the middle of the park and is a real standout in the squad. She is absolutely excellent. Having just come back from a long-term, year-long injury, she's really been excellent every time we've seen her play. Now, unfortunately, she is missing today. She's not in the squad. We're not sure why. Looking for some confirmation on that. She certainly did a lot of the pre-match build-up on Alba, and she did some interviews for the game that never suggested she was going to be out. So a bit of a loss today, no doubt, with her in the middle of the park. But there's plenty of talent in that squad. It's a good mix of youth and experience. And if they play with the same passion and drive that they have the last couple of times we've watched them play Rangers, then there's absolutely no reason why they can't go on and get a result here.
Now, during the press conference, NatASHA, Russell, our very own Russell Boyce, spoke not only to Fran Alonso but to Kelly Clark, the captain, as well. What was the kind of mood in the camp, Russell? Were they feeling quite buoyed by the recent run of form?
I think there's a real sort of self-assurance about them. I think they do buy into what it is they're doing. I don't think they take any of the, I appreciate it was against the run of play, but I certainly don't think they were looking at the results as fortunate either. And I think NatASHA's right. They were thoroughly deserving in their wins, despite them being against the run of play as such. I actually think what really struck me was in the game against Glasgow City most recently. Now, we've just spoke about how they're on course for 14 in a row potentially, and how many light years they've been ahead. That last 10 minutes, it was Celtic who put them in the back foot. It was Celtic who looked the more likely team to actually go on and win it. And I think they've now got a knack for hanging in there in games. And then when it comes to the sort of final 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, being able to put the foot down, I think their fitness levels are outstanding. And again, I just think it's a real sign of a team that all pulls together for the same cause. And they play right to the final whistle. I think they've, I think it's not a fluke when it's happened, the once, twice with Rangers, and then I actually felt, as I say, that the one against Glasgow City could have went very similar as well to the 2 past Glasgow derbies. So I think they're going to be, the impression I got was there's a lot of confidence in the squad, but they're extremely level-headed about it as well.
Good. I mean, Lawrence, we had a wee chat on the WhatsApp leading up to the game where we spoke about the old football magazines you got back in the 80s and 90s. There was always a feature called Spotlight On. So they would speak to a footballer and ask them very mundane questions like, what's your pre-match meal, etc. And every time they spoke to like a proper Celtic stalwart like Tommy Burns or Peter Grant, in the section where it says favourite other team, it was always Celtic reserves. Person you would most like to meet, the Pope. You know, car driven, green, and then just enter, make and model of the vehicle. Lawrence, you're a bit like that yourself. So have you added favourite other team, Celtic women, into that section as well?
Yep, mate, any Celtic team does me. But, you know, we've got Kiva Keenan's out as well, which is going to be a bit of a worry, I think. You know, she always does well for us. So Kiva and Sarah T missing. You know, big ask. But we've got a new signing on the bench, London Pollard. So, want to watch, Scott, you know, recently signed from Forth of Hamilton, so I can see, hopefully she comes off the bench and does some damage.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, you're right. A couple of star names missing. I think that we were waxing lyrical about Sarah Tiergarden over the piece, but it's potentially, NatASHA, a fact that she's, you know, recently came back from a serious injury, and it could well be that, you know, they're just going to rest her if indeed there's any issues whatsoever.
Yeah, it could be. Just having, you know, the research on Instagram tells us that she's potentially in America right now, and we know that she's engaged to Ian Harkes of Dundee United, who appears to be back in America, where they're going to be getting married in a week or so time. Might have something to do with it. Maybe they are back over there, but certainly it suggests that could be a factor. So maybe she has ended her season early and is back in America for her wedding. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out at some point over the course of today. Someone will be able to confirm that or deny it in the comments for us. But she will be a big loss. But in saying that, we've got a really strong middle of the park there, and we've got a strong defensive line. So she will be a miss. She's a great player, but I like the lineup. I'm feeling confident about it.
Lisa Robertson's kind of a lot of pressure on Lisa, isn't there? But she's really experienced, Lisa. So, you know, I think we're looking for her to step up to the mark, middle of the park, and win the game for us.
So tonight's game, it's going to be screened live on BBC Alba for anyone wondering. We'll be watching the game in full, commenting at halftime and at full time as well. Now, Laura, we are going to have to split the team up, I think, next year to cover all the games. And I was asking earlier if anybody particularly fancies watching the Colts and commenting on the Colts so they can become a specialist in that field. Others will veer towards the men's game, and others will like to comment on the women's game. But I'm absolutely amazed at how big this is becoming when, you know, perhaps the timing in terms of the lockdown has been maybe fair in relation to the fact that we want more, we want to watch games, we want to get the football fix, and then the televised games have come along, and I think that's brilliant. So timing wise, I think that's worked. But you look down south and you look at, you know, Emma Hayes at Chelsea, who's been linked to so many full-time professional men's positions. You know, they were talking about her being one of the first female bosses in European football to actually manage a men's professional team. How incredible is that? And it's just a matter of time, isn't it, before it happens down south?
Well, I think so, because I think even though the men's and women's game, from my limited knowledge of having watched it, they play very differently, and there's different dynamics to the teams. At the end of the day, football's football, and especially from a management and coaching position, it doesn't matter if you're a man coaching women or a woman coaching men. You know, the ideas will be the same. You know, and Emma Hayes specifically has got this profile that is unmatched by anybody else in the women's game at the moment. I think she, I wouldn't doubt to say she might have done a better job than Frank Lampard if she'd been given the men's Chelsea job as well. So you never know. But I don't see any reason why not. I think it's only a matter of time before something like that does happen, and you just hope that if and when it does happen, the women that get that opportunity are treated as fairly as the men are in that situation, and, you know, they're judged purely on the performance from the dugout and nothing else.
We're watching big changes at Celtic Park, NatASHA, massive changes. They seem to be happening a lot slower than most of us would like, and obviously we're all getting a bit tetchy around the Eddie Howe question. Is he got another eye on maybe one of these big jobs that's becoming available left, right and centre down south? I dread to think, I've seen a couple of journals suggesting that is the case, whereas other people who are quite close to the situation are saying it's just a matter of the contract, can't do anything until that expires on the 31st of May, so we would expect something maybe a week on Monday, a week tomorrow. When you're looking at that and the fact that he's got so much work to do and so little time to do it, I'm not that hopeful, I've got to say, about Celtic in the Champions League next season. I would love us to qualify, of course I would, but I just think there's so much upheaval at this moment in time. As I'm sitting here, I'm not that confident. If the women's team can get into the Champions League, virtue of a win tonight and obviously keeping that run go into the end of the season, how big will their nights be at Celtic Park next season? Obviously they've played at Celtic Park this season to no fans. Could you see the Celtic crowd really buying into this? Because we don't tend to play Champions League, we've not been qualifying for the Champions League, I'm not actually sure what night it's played on. I've got to be honest with you in terms of the women's game, but I can actually see there being a real interest in this next season, coupled by the fact that perhaps we won't be progressing ourselves in terms of the men's team.
Yeah, you know what, why not? I would encourage people, for example, to watch the game today, see the passion, commitment, drive, energy of a team really giving 110%, who have a legitimate chance of really achieving something special. And if you take that from today's game, that's what they're also going to apply if they manage to get into that second Champions League spot. And if we want to develop our women's game, if we want to give it the best possible chance of growing and being enhanced and being played at the best level possible, we have to give them access to the best facilities possible. So if Celtic women's team do manage to get into the second Champions League spot, we need to give them every opportunity to excel there. And that includes having them play on a top-class park using top-class facilities. So obviously time scale dependent, if there's any clashes that would cause issue, but if there's no clashes, there's absolutely no reason why that women's game couldn't be played at Celtic Park in front of a crowd. And I think people would only just have to, start watching games, get invested, get into it, and we could see a good crowd there. I don't know if anyone managed to see the Women's Champions League final, Barcelona and Chelsea. It was a brilliant game. It was so enjoyable. It was unbelievably good quality, some shock results, some crazy goals. It was great. I was invested. I don't support Chelsea or Barcelona, and that's a women's game that I was properly invested in. So if it was Celtic playing in the Champions League, then that investment only increases. So I would encourage anyone to give it a go, and I think we could have some really great nights at Celtic Park supporting the girls.
I look forward to that. Now, as I was saying before, Russell and Fran Alonso have really hit it off. Sharing style tips during official press conferences. It was fantastic, Russell. But one of the things, I know you don't get an opportunity to sit there and ask a number of questions. You're often, you're limited to one. But one thing that really interests me is the fact that the aforementioned Sarah Tiergarden, for example, it would only be a matter of time, wouldn't it, if these players were impressing for Celtic and we were qualifying for the Champions League, for some of the other big European clubs to come in and actually try and prize them away from us. Do you think that's a big fear, that with success comes these suitors? We've certainly seen it with the big team, haven't we? Dembele last night winning the Spanish League with Atletico Madrid. The mind boggles if you imagine him and Odsonne Edouard teaming up together for an entire season. But every time we have a star player, we just know it's a matter of time before they go. Do you think it's the same culture in the women's game?
Total double-edged sword, doesn't it? Because you're going to attract better players if people can see a clear path road to go do well at Celtic, get Champions League football, earn a move to I'd say it was a Chelsea or someone of that ilk. That then is only going to help us attract better players as well, because they can see this sort of pathway, like I say, and they're going to get that exposure in the toughest competition of them all. The flip side would be I find that a lot more healthy than when you were suggesting about the women's manager going perhaps into the men's game. I think the ultimate goal in women's football should be that you want to go for the best job in women's football. It doesn't need to be a badge of honour to be then going into the men's one. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's when they really will have achieved the sort of equality that that obviously everyone's sort of striving to see in women's sport now. And I would like that to be the sort of goal of a manager doing amazing in women's football wants to go to the biggest club in women's football. They don't want to swap it for the men's game. That shouldn't be the driving factor in that. But in terms of the Celtic stuff, I just think right now, if we were to have Champions League nights right there, I am in no doubt that since the football moved to BBC Alba of late, since it started getting more coverage from the likes of herself and a couple of others, to be fair, that has definitely already attracted a new audience. And Champions League is just a sexy name. It's just one of those things that captures your imagination, and I think you would see a huge upturn in numbers as of next season if we were to qualify for that. And I would definitely be at the first one. You just want a piece of it, wouldn't you, to find out what it's like?
Oh, definitely.
Curiosity's got to kill the cat.
No, definitely. And I think that, last week rather, we were chatting to Celtic around how we're going to tackle kind of the media once everything gets back to some sense of normality, because obviously we want to be in and about the club, the games, speaking to players, all that kind of stuff. And a big part of that, Laura, will be the women's game, so it would be tremendous on a Champions League night. And I'm not getting carried away here. I don't think that at the stage where they could sell out Celtic Park, but can you imagine a decent crowd, upwards of, let's say, 15,000 or something like that, actually buying into this? Do you think that's being over ambitious to suggest that might happen?
Well, listen, if there was ever a time to push it, it would be now, because never in our living lifetimes have people been more desperate to go back to the football, to have any type of entertainment of any description, anywhere to go, anything to do. I'm sounding a bit desperate here, but just we're all coming out the other end of something pretty major, and I think there's an opportunity here to capitalise on that, have a positive come out of it, and see something like that really grow off the back of people's just excitement to be back together again. And I think that's a way that we could sort of influence it going forward.
NatASHA, when you look at this added value, do you think that a season ticket that encompassed the women's fixtures and the Colts fixtures would be good enough? Do you think that would be added value? Because what are we talking here? I think the club placed a figure on it, and it's difficult to put an exact figure because there's different tiers in terms of season tickets, but I think they were looking at a couple of £100, trying to give fans a couple of £100 back in added value for the season just past. Next season's another thing entirely. Do you think that's something that the fans would buy into?
You know what, it's hard to say, because I would sit here quite happily and say, yes, for me, if the added value next season was access to all the women's games and all the Colts games, then yes, that absolutely sits me fine, and I'd be pleased with that. But on the same hand, I need to recognise that a lot of people wouldn't be happy with that. And I know we're a massive fan base and it's going to be hard to please everyone, but a lot of people are in a financial position that they're saying to Celtic, I need some form of refund on last season or some sort of discount on next season if you're asking me to put my hand in my pocket again. And that's not just asking me to go to more games that I don't have the time to go to, that I don't have the time to commit to. So I get for some people that absolutely yes, me included, I would appreciate that as added value. I get for some people that isn't actually going to give them the value that they're looking for. So it's a difficult one. I think that they need to look at doing this anyway, some form of, discount on the women's game, adding the women's game to the season ticket. I think that should be something that they seriously consider going forward if we're to increase the numbers of the women's game, increase the revenue, the visibility and everything that flows from that. I think it does have to be looked at as part of the men's season ticket as well, and some way of joining that on.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing Fran Alonso on your screen at the moment, Russell, but he's sporting a polo neck tonight. So I don't know what you've got in your wardrobe. You could have a dig about. I'm sure there's something in there.
You need to step it up, Russell, man. You need to step it up.
For the half-time.
We're done. We can arrange that. Right?
Let's have a look
I can fully expect Russell with a polo neck on at half-time.
I'm going to have a look through some of these comments coming in. Thanks for joining us on YouTube, Facebook and on Twitter. I've got some predictions coming in. Robert Davey reckons that Celtic could win 2-1. We also have, people are getting into this. They really are. Ken Walsh is saying some panel. I agree with you, Ken. It's tremendous to have the contributors to Celtic State of Mind coming out on a Sunday night to watch Celtic. Feed the Bear reminds us, can we give a big shout out to Josh Taylor? Well done, Josh. Absolutely. Edinburgh
Brilliant.
boy, Josh, tremendous achievement. Flying the flag, absolutely. Michael the boy, Fran has been about, no mug. I remember actually during the kind of early part of the season, Colin Watt, and I've got to say, I disagreed with him at the time. He was saying, just you know, give him the job, give him the Celtic job, let him do it. And you never know, because I think you make a good point, Russell, in relation to why should the ambition of a successful women's manager be to get involved in a men's game?
Yeah.
You know,
I just feel it's a backwards way of thinking, isn't it? It's
something that Emma Hayes has said as well, Russell. Remember, I think we've talked about this before, is that Emma Hayes at Chelsea was linked with the Wimbledon job. And she said, why would I take a step down to go into men's football? And she really, really viewed it as a step down. She was open about the fact that she was getting paid more money to manage Chelsea's women's team. And Chelsea's women's team were playing at a higher standard. You know, they just got into the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Why would she give up managing a team in the Champions League final to go and manage, no disrespect, Wimbledon, just because it's men on the pitch instead of women? And fair play to her for sticking to that. She's an absolutely brilliant manager, and if you listen to her, a massive supporter of the women's game and does a really great job. And she doesn't see a promotion to her as being men's football. She's happy managing women's football, and she's managing that at the highest level. So fair play to her.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the game. They're on the park. They're just about to kick off. And I'm looking at the Celtic jerseys. It would look really, really smart if we had the ACSOM logo on them jerseys at some point as a sponsor. Imagine that. So here we go. We've got plenty of people tuning in. Adam Crockett coming in to say, win, lose or draw, the girls have done well this season, doing their best and can kick on next season. They're doing the huddle. They're about to kick off. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you again at half time, where hopefully we'll be talking about a dominant Celtic performance against Rangers. Thanks for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.